the Career Workshop series. My name is Desiree Scarborough, and I feel inclined to always say I'm a Brooklyn native because I think that that's important. So I'm just from right over in Bed-Stuy, so not very far from you guys. And so thank you all for being here. And I'm going to do a quick little presentation just to kind of tell you more about me and how I ended up here before you today. Oh, yeah. Okay, great. So the title of our workshop today is called Manifestation as Adornment, and kind of where that came from and where this started. And I'll get to that also a little bit later in the presentation. But in 2023, I made my first piece of jewelry / headpiece, and it kind of snowballed from there. And I got really into working with wire and beading and just figuring out ways to make something that's completely malleable and something that's from my brain. And I've always loved just kind of sitting and doing things with my hands. So puzzles, painting, clay, anything like that while watching movies or listening to music like bossa nova. So yeah, but I do find creating something that's wearable as a sort of manifestation, and it can kind of inform where you feel like you're going with the things that you make in your art practice. So I hope that that kind of inspires you a bit today as we move into. We have a lot of materials and things like that over on this table to play with, and since there's only a few of you guys, then got free reign, so you can do something kind of crazy. So yeah, okay, so we'll get started. So about the agenda for today. We're starting a little bit later at 1:30, but I wanted to kind of just go around and have you guys introduce yourselves and tell me what brought you here today. And then I'll get into a quick presentation on my career journey. I'm going to try and talk fast, but feel free to raise your hand and ask questions if anything is unclear. And then we'll start our working session, hopefully about 2 hours. And I'll give you time I have some paper and some markers over here. You can sketch beforehand if you want to, or if you're like me, you kind of just want to like go over to the materials and see what you like and grab stuff and then just like get started. You can totally do that too. However you want to start the practice for the day. And then after that, we'll do a bit of a share out, or I kind of just want to hear, what you guys enjoyed about things, what was maybe difficult, what you would do differently, and kind of like what you've started with. And also, if you don't finish, that's completely okay. I have some gift bags and some Ziploc bags for you guys if you want to take any of the materials home and like keep working. So don't feel like you have to rush. And then my friend Jason, photographer, is here. We'll take some pictures of the things that you've made if you want to share, just so we can kind of like look back and see like what you make. So yeah, sounds good. Okay, so yes, that's me, and welcome to today's workshop. So gonna speed through some childhood things. So my introduction to art was actually the first musical my mom took me to at 2.5 years old, which is Les Mis, which makes a lot of sense because Paris is one of my favorite places. Do not make me speak in French. I get like stage fright. But so I feel like that kind of catapulted my interest in art and design and just creativity in general. And I started doing ballet and modern dance as a kid, and also violin and keyboard because I thought I wanted to be Alicia Keys. I can't sing, so I won't perform for y'all. But I do still enjoy playing musical instruments. And so in middle school, I got more into fashion and design. I had a teacher that introduced me to a designer named Alexander McQueen. And I can also show some of his stuff later too. And that kind of changed my perspective on what fashion and art and design could be, because his work was more in line with wearable art and not kind of just like everyday t-shirts, clothing, t-shirts and jeans and things like that. So convinced my mom to put me into some pre-college courses, and FIT and Parsons still do these today as well. And well, today's economy, they might be more expensive than they were like 10 years ago, but they do still do summer, weekend, weekday programs, which are really fun. And that was where I started to learn more about the construction of fashion, pattern making, and sewing, and really discovered my love for it through that. And then high school, my graduation picture, I went to Frank Sinatra School of the Arts, which is in Astoria, Queens, which is a great school as well, if you know anyone that's interested. And while I was in high school, I also was an education intern at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That was a little bit different. It was kind of my introduction to teaching art to students that were younger than me. And I also started journalism, so I started writing op-ed pieces on new exhibits and things like that as well that got me involved, and just loved the museums from there. And I also started working some New York Fashion Week shows with a local videographer that I met actually at my Sweet 16 celebration, and I told her that I was interested in fashion, so she got me involved in Harlem Fashion Row, which still puts on New York Fashion Week events every year, and a few other local designers as well. So I was helping with photo shoots and things like that. So I would go to school all day, and then I would go work until about like midnight, and then I would get up at 6 a.m. and go back to school the next day. So I was very committed. No stranger to hard work and staying up really late. I still do that to this day. So college, I went to the Rhode Island School of Design. It's about 4 hours outside the city. As I said, I'm born and raised here. I know FIT and Parsons are big fashion schools and they're wonderful, but I wanted to get away from the city, and I wanted to get more of a kind of like TV college experience where you have like rolling hills and dorm rooms and see trees and things like that. So I ended up leaving the city for a couple of years, and I pursued apparel design through that. And these are just some pictures from like my senior collection. And this is like a tailoring project that I did as well, which was like, I made my face on a breastplate out of feathers. And that was really also kind of the start of doing more tactile, large scale, like not basic pieces, was kind of like the start of that really for me. And then early post-grad, got some really great opportunities, being featured in Vogue and Women's Wear Daily and Fashionista.com. And that really started me taking myself seriously as an artist and designer. You have a question? Yeah. Oh, I'm turning 28 in like 3 months. Yes. This is a long time. Don't feel pressured. This is like, oh yeah, a long time. Yes, so that really started having an effect on me taking myself seriously as an artist and designer, if people were recognizing me at that point. And that also led to my first brand collab with Life Water. So I created this coat piece, and then they had part of it on the water bottle, and that was sold nationally. And that was really great to always have my friends and family being like, I found your bottle in Dollar Tree. I'm like, oh my God. And it's funny because I think too, what fashion and the fashion industry teaches you is that you kind of have to work your way up to being respected as an artist and designer, which is still true, but there are a lot of opportunities as a young person to get recognition like this. And this was also paid, as they should. These do not do anything for free, especially for any big brands. They have the money. And so that really made me take myself seriously, kind of shook off the imposter syndrome as well. Oh. Hi, welcome. I'll let her get seated. But does anyone have any questions so far while we wait? Yeah.
When you do your like art pieces, is there anything specifically that inspires you? Like you see something, you're like, and it like strikes up an idea.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it varies. I feel like I go through seasons with what interests me and what doesn't. Something that's been a large interest point for me was architecture, and New York, and especially Brooklyn, has a lot of really interesting ironwork and lots of small architectural details that I found really interesting. And those shapes and forms really start to inform, like especially my wire and my jewelry making work, because I love the repetition, and also that all of that is like hand done. I think also speaks to like what humans are capable of, especially with all the AI and everything going on today. So I really I borrow a lot from what's old, from history. I like to travel a lot, and I always like, especially when I go to a new place, I love to do a walking tour and like hear from a local guide about, stories and things like that, and like, why the Moulin Rouge is red and why it's called that during the French Revolution and all the bloodshed and everything like that. So all of those things I feel inform my practice, but also a big part of being an artist is figuring out your storytelling, where all these things kind of come from, all of your details come from. So continue to read, watch movies, listen to things that you like would never try. So I don't like country music though. I've already tried. I'm like, that's not for me. But like, but like, you know, try other things that might be like, oh, that's kind of interesting, especially if it has nothing to do with fashion and art. I think those are some of the most inspirational avenues because it really makes your brain kind of think about, okay, how I like this story. How can that translate into something wearable where it makes sense? Oh, yes.
How did you figure out textile design was the right medium for spreading creativity?
Trial and error. Even though I went to school, the first year of RISD is foundation year, so you don't actually pick a major yet. And I was going back and forth between apparel design and textiles because textiles is like woven, tapestry, more paint and fine art based. But in apparel, they teach you how to make clothes, and that's the focus. So it really was what was going to be more important to me. What did I feel that I needed to strengthen myself on? And for me, it was the construction of clothes. I know how to paint, I know how to draw, I can make prints, I can do all of those sorts of things. But like, where do I really need professor assistants where I'm paying like $60,000 a year? Like, where should that go? And the great thing too is at all schools as well, you can do classes from other majors. And sometimes they have like a winter session where you can also take classes from other majors as well. So there's always opportunity. And if you make friends in other majors, then they let you use their stuff. So never feel like pigeonholed, even if you pick a major, there's still other ways. But yeah, that was really like the final decision for me about why I chose apparel rather than textile design.
So the reason I asked that is because I also have interest at spanning between different fields of design. Like right now, I'm starting to become a graphic designer, but I
Okay, great.
want to interest in fashion and photography. And it's hard to find a stream because you can't be good at everything, and if you're not good at everything, you kind of fall through. So it's more so like, I'm trying to figure it out. I tried to make clothes before. I made a very affordable sweater.
Nice.
My friend is also a textile designer. She came to my, like, I go to C Tech right now.
Okay.
She also went to C Tech, and then she transferred over to FIT shortly after. And she used to take me to her house at that and like show me how to make clothes. Like, I remember one time, like, I designed a sweater, and she like made it for me for like a month, and I was so enamored by it. And I remember having so much fun going to new fabrics on 34th and like fabrics and feeling it out and stuff like that. But it's just the physical process of doing it. I feel like I just didn't have the knack for it because there's so much measurements, ins and outs, and I'm horrible at cutting different kinds of clothes. Like the big fur and the box on fur is so hard to cut it straight. And like, I did applique, I did like everything is just not to move, but I still like want to do those things. So it's, it's very weird for me because you want to direct stuff, but you need to also be able to make the things you want to direct and make it that position. Like, I've never experienced that where you.
Yeah, I mean, also I will say, and I'll get to this in the presentation too, I do like 7 different things right now. And most artists, I'm sure you're probably familiar too with Virgil Abloh. I went to a retrospective of his art practice while I was in France last year. The man has done like 9 different things simultaneously. Fashion design, shoe design, graphic design, even designing architecture, industrial design, designing chairs. He has done everything all at the same time. You'll never feel like there has to be one avenue. I know, like, especially I can remember like being 18, like my early 20s as well. It's like everyone is telling you like, pick this thing. But the truth is like so many working artists do so many different things, partially because they're interested in like 6 different things at a time, which is, I feel like, just the artist way, but also because you'll come up upon times in your life, and I'll get to that too, where like you need the side gigs, you need to do other things to like finance your practice, finance your bills, keeping your phone on and everything like that. And so always staying open to other things that are of interest to you will only just help you in the future. I think it's not a very good decision if you're interested in 3 things and only do one, because you just never know how life is going to turn out. And I think if you stay too focused on one thing and you keep doing it, eventually it kind of leads to burnout. And you're like, okay, what do I do now? You kind of some people like start to spiral because it's like for over a decade, I've only done one type of art. So I think it's in your best interest, everyone's best interest. Like if you're interested in jewelry and fashion and film and graphic design, try and find ways to add all of those things into your practice and try all of those things and stay connected to them, because it might be like sometimes throughout your life, maybe film for a few years is like funding your lifestyle, but you're also at the same time teaching on the side and things like that. Then it allows that art, that part of art, to also be a hobby and also be like another means of financial assistance, or even just like meeting other people and networking. So just try and like stay connected to all of those touch points of things that interest you. So I think it'll just help you in the future. Yeah.
I could conclude on that because one reason why I was hesitant to get into the creative field is because always when you're growing up and you want to become something, you always like want to make profit off what you're making money, right? And everyone, like especially when you come from a driven household, they always tell you that you want to become the static cookie cutter job, like doctor, lawyer, dentist, all that stuff. And you don't really get much support because they can't imagine creatives making money because there's no like it's hard to imagine what creative does if you're not in that field. It's hard to see where it makes profit, right? And I'm still kind of in that field. I'm a little bit shaky about it because you always hear from designers in the field right now, like creatives don't really make that much money. They work for a very long time and just fade out of nowhere. And I'm trying to fully articulate what I'm saying because
Yeah, but I hear you. I do. And I want to push back on out of nowhere because it's not out of nowhere. That's saying it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. All of the people that are successful now have been doing it. They've had jobs, other jobs while they've been doing it. And I'll get to my other jobs that I've had as well. There's always something else that you can be doing on the side as well. It's just keeping in contact with what's really passionate to you and like what really drives you. So you can have the other jobs and still be an artist. You don't have to only do art to be an artist. I do like want to tell you that. You can work a full-time job, you can be in corporate and do like whatever makes sense for you and for your lifestyle and like still do art. It's just gonna take more time, it's more dedication. But if it's really what you want to do and you're like, I want to work for myself completely and do all of the creative things, then it's going to take some sacrifice. It's going to take some, maybe most days you only get 4 to 5 hours of sleep. But all of that is building, showing yourself on social media, making things working. People need to see that like you're as serious as you claim to be. So don't, it's not out of nowhere, I promise you. None of it is. Yes.
Social media has helped a lot.
It does. It definitely does. I think it's a mixture of like perception versus reality because you like want to show your day to day as an artist and like whatever your practice is. But I also always tell people like, oh, I just, started this new job. I started dog walking again. I started doing whatever I need to do to also like finance things. Yeah, and it's important to have social skills, okay? Because like when you get to the point where someone can give you $50,000, $250,000, you need to be able to speak for yourself. You need to be able to talk about what you do, why it's important, and why it's different from what everybody else is doing. So yes, do the influencer kind of thing if you need to. And I still do. I have the YouTube, the TikTok, the everything, absolutely. But also practice speaking to one another, practice going to things, look at the way that other people are dressed when they're going to things. And that can kind of like help you inform how to like fit in the space. Like I don't come from a background where anybody else in my family has done art or design or anything. And so a lot of my learning was on my own. It's just being in these spaces, working in New York Fashion Week shows, and just kind of like gathering what I can take from that, what makes sense for me and what doesn't. Take what works, leave what doesn't, because it's also, the industry is a little crazy. But okay, let me move through this as well. Oh, yes. Okay, perfect. Side gigs. These are just a few of the things that I've done since graduating. So I graduated in COVID. I graduated college in 2020. So it's been a tumultuous time as an adult. There's been a lot of ups and downs. So we've done a lot of things. Right now, currently, I am an teaching artist in the Upper East Side in 2 different locations. And I typically work 6 days a week, usually from either 9 to 1, 9 to 3, sometimes 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I still make time to come home and work on my own things and do my own practice. So it's all possible. Just keep the tenacity, and check in with yourself. Make sure you're not overworking yourself, though. But it is possible. And okay, yeah. So New York Fashion Week 2022 is my first collection that I did post grad, and I fully financed this one myself through my day job. At the time, I was doing actually 3 different jobs at a time. I was freelancing for a handbag company. I was still dog walking and cat sitting intermittently, and I was also working for a family friend at the time. So I was financing this collection through all of those jobs, and my friends that were working for me did it for free out of the kindness of their hearts. So get you some good friends who'll help you with that. This was kind of the beginning, because there is a lot of gatekeeping in the fashion industry, and it's difficult if you don't know the right people, or if the right people don't really feel like they believe in you. And so doing this show on my own and managing it and producing it myself was a proof of concept to myself, but also to other people, that I was serious. Because when you graduate college, as well as an artist or designer, there are lots of you, right? There were about 20 people in my class, and now we're 6 years out and only 2 of us are still in fashion. So sometimes time weeds people out, pressure, life, all the things. And so when you're really serious about it, you like really have to show people that you're serious. And so that this first show in this collection was like the real step in that direction. And bringing it back to, because, and you missed this part, but I also started in modern and ballet dance as a kid. And it's still something that I was interested in. And so I actually got people from my high school to model, and we created a dance video of them dancing based on some poetry and some things that I had written. And so there's ways to intersect all of fashion, the dance. I had a friend compose a piece playing the violin, because I used to play the violin. And so there are always things that you can pull from in your life to bring things to the forefront to what you're doing at the time. And that led to some like features and some shoots. So Tierra Whack was one of my first celebrity clients, and like I didn't even know that the stylist knew who I was, but that's the power of of being featured in some things. And it kind of grew from there. And then I started working with some other indie brands and companies to have things on their website for sale, like this piece here. So things kind of grow from there. And this is also going into the beginning of my headpiece creation. I started making paper and cardboard headpieces for the 2022 show. And then I went to Miami for the first time for Art Basel, and I was with this another nonprofit that was sending Black and brown artists and designers to Miami for Art Basel. And at the end, we had to create a project that was based on our experience there. So I created these wire frames, which I did bring here. And everything that's here, you can touch them and like pick them up and move them around. And I really enjoyed how malleable wire was, but also how powerful and like thick it could be when you continue to wrap it and add all of these things. And so that was really the catalyst for all of this now, like 3+ years later, was doing that project and going there and stepping out of my comfort zone a bit and trying something new. And so 2024, I did a residency in Serbia and Paris, which is like, oh, where are you going? Oh, Serbia. Why? It's it's a place I'd never been before, and I always love to try and travel to new places and not just stick where I'm comfortable. I think that's just something as an artist that you should continue to do, to push yourself into new mediums, push yourself into new places, because you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't like until you try those new things. And so once I started really getting into, and this is the same frames like photographed in Paris at the same time, I just continued working, continued making things out of the wire, but also other like found materials. This is also here. So I was like sitting in my Airbnb, or I would go to the parks in these different cities that I was visiting in. And what I loved about the wire as well is that it allowed me to go outside. Like sewing is so stationary, and I didn't just want to like spend the entire time. Like it's like, you're in Europe, you should be outside. And so working with the wire and the beading and everything allowed me to just be mobile and talk to people, meet with people, and also like work wherever in the cities that I was in. And then we did another show. This one was bigger, New York Fashion Week 2024. This one I started a GoFundMe for, and we were able to raise just over about 22,000, and that took me almost a year. I started pretty early, and we were also sending weekly email updates to investors. We were also creating charts and decks and reaching out to local businesses in the community to get sponsorships for like wine and things like that, and having gift bags and custom candles and all those things. All of that really took about 9 to 10 months. That at that point, I was working full time at the handbag company that I was originally freelancing for. So yay, health insurance. And so I was able to put a lot more of my own money as well behind this. All of the materials, the creation, everything, clothes, patterns, hand painted dresses, all of this I did myself after leaving work for 8 hours. So it was a real labor of love, this whole collection was. And then I was able to also collaborate. This is a vase, like a knit and denim vase from another RISD alum as well. I just also started reaching out to people that I went to school with. And I think that's another thing when you go to school, high school, college, your teachers, keep in touch with all of those people, because you never really know where other people will be when you're ready to take those steps and do those things. And people are always a lot more willing to help than you think. That was something that was really surprising to me when I was like, I really want to do this. Let me know like how much it would cost, And I was like, I'll just kind of figure it out after. And they're like, no, girl, like it's fine. I got you. Like it's cool. Like I've been watching you on social media for the last like, I don't know, 8 years, and like really want to help you and support you and do those things. So that's another, like also staying up to date on your social media, so people also know that you're serious. And yep, some more headpiece evolution. Some of them are over there that you can like also touch and pick up. And and Jason shot these. Yeah, and then so I worked that handbag corporate job full time for about 3.5 years. Then I quit and went to Paris for 2 months. I needed to get away from the city and the mundane of the 9 to 5 and kind of like find myself a little bit. As I mentioned, like I'm almost 30, so I'm on my eat, pray, love thing. So I went to Paris for a little bit, but I also was thinking about the future, about what life looked like now that I was approaching like and past the 5-year post-grad mark. And I really saw myself living in another country. I still do. And so I was like, 1 week visiting is different from really living there. And so I got 2 different apartments. I had one apartment for 1 month and another one I lived further outside the city, because I wanted to have the opportunity to be bored. I wanted to have the opportunity to make friends and really see what it was like to live there, see how hard it is to find a job, especially when French isn't your first language and people already have their ideas about Americans. So it was really difficult, but it was a good challenge for me, I think. And through all of that, I was like visiting schools to see like where I wanted to go to grad school and meeting new people and really just kind of putting myself out there. And I loved it. And now I want to go back. So I'm like, okay, I want to get my master's, going more of the business route this time, as opposed to fashion, but still very much will be involved in the fashion industry. So take some leaps, take some risks. I came back and then I was like, ooh, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was kind of like flailing around for a little bit until I found, my current jobs and everything like that. So this is kind of like where I'm at today. So I've been doing custom orders. I share those online and especially YouTube, longer form content. Started doing more managing events for movies, screenings, different things like that, getting involved with my friends and working those things. Volunteering has become a lot more important to me, especially working with local people in the community. One of my favorite places, which I'll send to you because I think it's great for all of you to try. There's this place called Fab Scrap that's in Bay Ridge, and you can volunteer, sort through fabric and materials for about 2.5 hours, and you get to take 5 pounds of material home for free. And I got a couple of things from there as well, so you can kind of like see the breadth of what you can get. And it's also, you know, helping a local business that is committed to sustainability in the fashion industry. So I become a lot more involved with my volunteering. Again, I work with children 4 to 12, little babies. They're interesting, but a lot of fun. And then I started getting more into my writing and everything that I did in high school. I loved writing reviews on museums and books and different things like that. So I started getting back into that because I also wanted to get back into reading, which is something I loved to do as a kid. And yeah, so that's where we are. Those are all the different jobs and all the different things to kind of like keep life going and stuff like that. And coming soon, so for my 2024 show, I worked with another local photographer and documentarian to create a documentary based on the 2024 show. So we're planning to show that New York Fashion Week this year and do some Q&As around that. So yeah, and it was also Jordy that introduced me to CAMBA in the first place and the reason why I'm here. So yay. So yeah, that's a lot. I talked a lot, but does anyone have any questions before we get started?
Question.
Oh yes, what's your question?
So Burger's question is, when you first got started,
Yeah.
like before you got started, what was your goal? Like what, before you even knew you could do all those things, like what was your goal when you first started getting into fashion and doing makeup? What was your goal?
The goal that I actually started my FIT essay with was I wanted to be a multimillionaire and I wanted to change the fashion industry. And that was before I really knew how to make anything. but I felt like I could. And I definitely believe I know the title of the class too is Manifestation. I believe in speaking truth to power, and whatever you write and whatever you say about yourself is what you'll have. So speak good things, speak positivity to yourself and to whatever you decide to do, whether it's art or not. But I knew that I didn't like the way that I had experienced the fashion industry, especially working fashion week shows in high school. There was a lot of belittling, there was a lot of racism, there was a lot of lack of diversity in the industry, and I also believe in be the change you want to see. And so with all of my shows, I use my friends, I use short people, I use plus size people, I use anybody that I feel inspired by that I want to dress. And when I was growing up and I told my mom, my family, that I wanted to be in fashion, they were just like, well, don't forget about the big girls. And I was like, and I won't. So, and I stick with that. But yeah, it really came from that and feeling like even if you have like faith of a mustard seed, as they say, like just an inkling that you can like really make change, then you can if you stick with it. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Yeah.